So here's yet another short story or post about an ex-wife and mother who was convinced that the grass would be greener on the other side once she got rid of her good-for-nothing husband. And here she is 6 years later, no new husband, no new boyfriend, the dating market stinks, she's up to her eyeballs in debt, can't take care of herself, a big giant mess, and is obviously insinuating in varying degrees that it was a mistake of leaving her husband. Now, that'll be an entertaining one to go over here, guys, making the point that if you yourself right now are going through a divorce or breakup when you've been just tossed aside like a piece of garbage, like you never didn't mean anything to her, and she came up with a whole bunch of reasons to justify this, because they usually do, and make the husband out to be the devil, know this: even though it's driving you nuts and you're going through hardships, you're going to have the last laugh, because guess what? As much as the dating scene is a train wreck for guys, it also is for the gals, because they are actually a victim of their own foolishness. And the odds are she's not going to find some great replacement. Given that how most of them are not very good with money, she's going to be up to a lot of debt, and you'll be having the last laugh, because usually they'll be regret and want to come back to you. You'll see what I'm talking about. Titled, 6 years later, realizing I divorced my ex-husband out of spite, and I'm deeply regretting it. And a shout out to Mr. Arkansas for sending in this story. She says, I'm 37 years old, and there's some painful honesty ahead. Need to say this to internet strangers because I haven't yet admitted to anybody else in my life yet. Yeah, it's easier to talk to people you don't know than people you actually do know. My divorce was ugly. It involved 3 very, very young kids, all under the age of 5, and 1 and 6 months old. I cut off parents and friends for not supporting the divorce. Oh, she's one of those, huh? Probably they were telling her, you're overreacting. What are you doing? And she interpreted that as the absolute most form of revenge and cut them off. I bet she could use those people in her life now. The marriage itself needed work. I don't know for sure whether my ex would have been able to do the work or be a supportive partner, and that part is okay to me, and I accept it. But my decision itself to divorce didn't come from a place of thoughtful reflection. It came from a childish place of arrogance, spitefulness, vindictiveness, manipulation, and victim mentality. I'll give her this. She's at least admitting what we all know, what it usually is. Again, I'll read this again. Does this sound like maybe your ex? Arrogance, spitefulness, vindictiveness, manipulation, and victim mentality. That's probably what the friends and family who she cut off probably saw and said to her in some degree. And here you go. And it's all dawning on me now 6 years later. How shitty that was, how unfair that was to me and to my children. No, she isn't mentioning it was unfair to her ex, who probably wasn't as bad as she made it to be in her mind. And yes, it wasn't fair to her kids. Part of this realization comes from the fact that life has thoroughly humbled me and kicked me in the ass since my divorce. It's usually how it works. I was more financially secure in my marriage. I have been teetering on the brink of bankruptcy for the past 3 years. Well, not all women are terrible with money, but they usually aren't that good. I was far less lonely from dating. I've seen my ex as very typical of most men, i.e. he was not a particularly heinous villain, he was the median man. Okay, whatever the heck that means. Well, part of the reason that life has been so tough since my divorce is the timing of it. I don't miss the marriage itself. I don't really regret ending it. But because I was doing it out of spite and to get my husband to behave, I did it in the worst possible way. Get her husband to behave? No planning went into it, although I had young kids. My parents offered a house to me and my kids until I could stabilize. I refused. And as a result of trying to get it alone, the past 6 years end up with my eyeballs, up to my eyeballs in debt, constantly stressed and generally unhappy. So she was unhappy in her marriage, and now she's unhappy single. Sounds like the type that's never happy. And notice that her parents offered to help her out, a place to stay, and with the kids. Nope, I don't need my parents. Probably they were disagreeing with her divorce. I'm realizing now that ending a marriage is a huge deal. You think? And it would have been the best to think it through and give myself and my children an exit strategy, a soft place to land from where we could rebuild. This is the problem when you don't actually think things through and go based on emotion. I am several states away from my family, and at this point, I'm so deep in the mess I created, I sort of have no choice but to work my way out of it. Well, that's what adults do. I remember arrogantly thinking that I would be remarried within 5 years after my divorce was finalized. Ha! That is a pipe dream. And it's not even because I haven't dated. I've dated a lot. Or had boyfriends. I have. It's because of realizing that there is an epidemic of men who are still struggling and learning to be supportive partners, and also realizing that my financial situation is an absolute dumpster fire and it would be unfair to hoist it onto somebody else. You see what she did there? She said that there's an epidemic of men who are still struggling and learning to be supportive partners. So again, the villains are the guys. Her husband was no good, that she just had to get out of there as fast as possible and thinking it through. I'm convinced she's going to be married in 5 years. And, well, she's not married. She's on her own because every guy out there is just a loser. Come on here. And I might add that she's not up to her eyeballs in debt. Now, do you think she really didn't get involved with somebody because of her debt would drag them down? No, she probably just hasn't found anybody that could take it off her hands. I feel almost a relief admitting all this. Playing the victim year in and year out has been exhausting. Well, guess what? She's still doing it, but just in a different way. I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing. But seeing how removing my ex-husband from my life didn't make it any better has been eye-opening to me. What I mean is, I'm still me. And the things that were problematic about me when I was married are still there. And so new messes and problems have emerged and filled the space where my ex-husband was once. Okay, that's nice she's admitting that she's a problem and all, but at the end of the day, probably people were telling her that, friends and family, and she cut them off. I'm not saying all this to crap on myself. It's because I'm realizing that real self-love is holding myself accountable for my BS, and treating myself as a victim is not love. My marriage was somewhat exploitative of me and my finances and domestic labor, but it was not all verbally or physically abusive. I had the power and autonomy to advocate for myself within the marriage. And as mentioned, if the marriage needed to end, and I do believe it did, I could have advocated for myself and my kids in such a way that damage wasn't mitigated. But I went scorched earth, and the only person I burned was myself. That says it all. But guess what? She also harmed her kids. And you know it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't sound like the kids are with her. They're probably with the ex-husband. And you know what? Hey, that's a good thing because she sounds extremely unhinged, unstable. You just can't have that. But I don't feel bad for her. It also says, thank you for listening to me and have about this horrific realization. Please be kind with any comments. Well, the whole comment section are probably women just like her. They're her. But if she is really trying to better herself and change herself, okay, admitting these things is a first start. But you can still see the victim thing going on in the story here. But the point of the whole thing is, I'm doing this, guys, is because so many guys out there are dumped out of the blue or divorced out of the blue and are labeled the most heinous, evil creatures known to man. And we're being painted as the bad guy. That's usually not the case. I mean, there are some bad guys out there, but don't get me wrong, it's not always so one-sided. So when I hear these types that act like that and they see the grass is green on the other side, it gives me a good laugh. And anybody's been through a bad divorce or breakup, you know what I'm talking about here. But even she admits, and again, notice, she cut everybody off out of her life who probably told her she was being nuts. I've known some gals like that, and well for them. And then also the fact that there's just no good guys out there whatsoever. We shall see. Anyhow, guys, there you go. That'll be a good one for Friday.